This is KGW News at noon.
I want to be clear, these acts are obscene. They're an affront to the values of this community. As mayor, I will never tolerate or condone violence or criminal destruction.
Mayor Ted Wheeler condemning the riot in downtown Portland last night. Hundreds of people gathered in the South Park blocks and took aim at the Oregon Historical Society. Protesters did a lot of damage, and police moved in, making arrests. Thanks for joining us this noon. I'm Brenda Braxton. KGW's Bryant Clerkley was at the mayor's press conference this morning and has more on his message.
Mayor Ted Wheeler expressed his disappointment that hundreds of people hijacked Indigenous Peoples Day to cause damage and destruction downtown to the statues and to the Oregon Historical Society. Protesters called this an Indigenous Peoples Day of Rage. A social media post called for an end to colonialism and abolishment of police. Police say people used a car to pull the Theodore Roosevelt statue down in South Park blocks. The crowd then pulled the Abraham Lincoln statue down.
And we need to keep saying that if you are here engaging in acts of violence or criminal destruction, we do not tolerate it, we will not tolerate it, and we'll do our level best to hold you accountable.
At the Historical Society, several windows were broken out. 3 lit flares were thrown into the building in an attempt to start fires.
Most of the damage was done to the windows. The vast majority of the windows in our pavilion were either completely destroyed or damaged.
At Portland State University, several windows were busted out of the public safety building. Police say there were shots fired inside a restaurant nearby. Several other businesses had damage as well. Authorities arrested 3 people.
These events late at night, they purport to have a racial justice nexus, but they're not that.
Portland police would like anyone with information on the damage done to the Historical Society and the statues to contact them. They'll continue to investigate. In Portland, I'm Bryant Clerkley, KGW News.
Mayor Wheeler's challenger, Sarah Iannarone, issued this statement on Twitter. She wrote in part, "At a time when all our culture and arts venues are hurting, I'm angry for these neighbors of ours who are trying to uplift marginalized voices and honor diverse history only to be targeted by unaccountable vandals. Turn that anger into action and make some donations today." We're also hearing from Oregon State Representative Tana Sanchez. I spoke with her this morning. She is the second Native American to serve in the Oregon legislature and the first to represent Portland. She says the vandalism at the Oregon Historical Society is unconscionable.
That is the place that actually holds the truth. And whether we want to acknowledge it or not and deal with it is another issue, but it actually holds the truth. And the Oregon Historical Society has done an amazing job at really stepping it up lately and talking about the truth and owning that and helping people in Oregon understand what's been happening.
Representative Sanchez says there are 9 federally recognized tribes in the state of Oregon. She says if you'd like to learn more about their history and heritage and also the challenges Native communities face, the tribal websites are a good place to start.
I look forward to answering the committee's questions over the coming days. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed, I pledge to faithfully and impartially discharge my duties to the American people as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Thank you.
Developing this noon, the confirmation hearing for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. She gave her opening statement just about an hour ago. NBC's Susan McGinnis is on Capitol Hill with more on this high-stakes confirmation hearing.
Day 1 of confirmation hearings for Judge Amy Coney Barrett to fill the Supreme Court seat once held by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. President Trump's 3rd nominee today making the case that she plans to stick to the words of the Constitution, saying the courts are not designed to solve every problem or right every wrong in our public life. Republicans and Democrats digging in their opening statements.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you've accomplished. I think you're a great choice by the president.
I believe we should not be moving forward on this nomination, not until the election has ended and the next president has taken office.
Barrett is a favorite among Republicans, a conservative protege of the late Justice Antonin Scalia, a mother of 7 and a devout Catholic.
There's no religious test to serve on the Supreme Court. Why? Because the Constitution says so.
Democrats worry about a court with a 6-3 conservative majority in the long term, and how she might rule next month as the High Court considers a challenge to the Affordable Care Act.
The future of the Affordable Care Act and so many other issues hanging in the balance. Voting rights, civil rights, the right to privacy and choice, environmental protection, gun safety laws, marriage equality, dreamers.
Judge Amy Coney Barrett facing tough questions on Capitol Hill, even though the question of her confirmation seems to be settled. Susan McGinnis, NBC News, Washington.
Voter registration deadlines are coming up quickly. In Oregon, it's tomorrow, October 13th. In Washington, you guys have a little more time. The deadline there is October 26th. You can register online in both states. It's very easy. You can also check your registration status and update your mailing address if you've recently moved. And before you mark your ballot, check out our voter's guide. Go to KGW.com. We have information about all the candidates and the measures. New numbers from the Oregon Health Authority. It is reporting 222 new confirmed and presumptive cases of COVID-19. That's down from yesterday and down from late last week when Oregon saw more than 400 new infections per day. There are now more than 37,000 known COVID infections in Oregon. 2 elementary schools in the Estacada district say they will remain closed after a second person has tested positive for COVID. Both cases involve adults. Most students are doing online learning, except for a few dozen who are receiving in-person instruction a few hours a day. None of those students were believed to be in close contact with the people who tested positive. As a precaution, though, in-person classes are canceled at both River Mill and Clackamas River Elementary. Umatilla County is back on the governor's watch list after infection rates there started rising. It'll stay on the watch list for at least 3 weeks. Umatilla was really hard hit this summer after a series of large workplace outbreaks in Hermiston and the surrounding areas. Benton, Clatsop, and Malheur are the other counties currently on the watch list.